order the Dayton Parks Commission meeting, February 7th. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, approval of agenda. A first and a second?
Yeah,
Motion to approve the agenda?
I second.
All right.
You'd have to do a roll call vote with Jack on that.
That's right. Walk me through the verbiage. Just a general roll call?
Yeah, just call them by names and ask them what their vote is, and then
Okay.
call Jack as well.
We'll start with you, Jack.
I approve the minutes.
You approve? All
Did
right.
you?
Yeah. And then John? Yep. Approve. Carrie?
Approved.
All right. All right. Consent agenda. Approval of the Park Commissioner meeting minutes from December 6th.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Thank you, Jack.
I second.
Thank you, Carrie. All right. Open forum. Do we have anybody online for open forum?
No, we do not.
All right. Council update. Councilmember Trost.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work with this team this year. I don't have any particular updates today, but if there's anything you need me to back to the council, I'm happy to do that as well. Or anything particular you'd like from the council going forward, happy to listen and hear, and just looking forward to being here with you all.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Any questions for Matt?
Not at this time.
Jack, any questions for Matt?
No.
Okay.
No questions for Matt at this time.
Awesome. Cooking along tonight. All right, regular meeting items. Water Trail final report.
Okay, so in your packet you have had a copy of the final report. It's a fairly lengthy document. We've incorporated in all the recommendations from previous Park Commission meetings and from various other meetings with stakeholders and public meetings as well. I've asked, I think Rain's on the line from MSA who pulled the report together to just give us a quick overview of this. I just wanted to present it to you guys before it goes to the council, I think on the 28th of February.
All right. Well, thank you, Marty, for introducing the project here, and I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I know the report itself is about 50 pages long, but a lot of good content that pulls together a lot of your various planning efforts that you've been doing throughout the community, and really this is the final piece to hopefully tie together this additional recreational opportunity that you can add to the community. So, a little over a year ago, we embarked upon starting the project to investigate the feasibility of developing a paddle or a water trail within the city of Dayton. And hopefully you can all see my slides, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And so with that, you know, there was a lot of opportunities with the different water bodies within the community to investigate. And originally this started out as to really what is a water trail. And I think the best way to wrap anybody's head around it is it's obviously an opportunity for users, residents, visitors, tourists to come to your community and be able to activate the water space through more or less the silent sports. Now, it does somewhat combine in with the rivers having motorized boats on them and the lake as well, Diamond Lake. But really, it is focusing on the opportunity to create a trail on your water bodies. And a lot of times we see these on rivers, more or less, but you can also develop them on lakes and provide those destinations throughout. So this would this trail would focus just like a bike or pedestrian trail, on providing ADA compliant access on various points onto the water bodies and be able to, provide somebody a route to travel upon. And so back in November of 2021, Claire and we paddled the various water bodies, and when we were brought forth to investigate the feasibility of a water trail, we looked at potentially considering French Lake, Diamond Lake, the Crow River, and the Mississippi. But we can tell you how we kind of broke that down throughout the report and ended up where we are today. So I think what's really unique about Dayton, though, is, like I said, you have a lot of water bodies that can be activated. These spaces, and what we're seeing with our background in Parks and Recreation, a lot of communities had turned their backs on the water opportunities that they had within them. I know a lot of people probably focus more on the motorized boating and fishing, but silent sports have really taken off, especially since COVID. A lot of people have been able to buy their own watercraft, their own canoes or kayaks, exponentially, so that there's even, I always share this, there's a store in Madison, Wisconsin. They're known for their worldwide Canoecopia show, where they really highlight different trails across the country and the world as paddling opportunities. And since COVID, they've seen sales exponentially grow. I think they're even building a new facility because of the need for people wanting to get into this sport and exercise, a different way to recreate. And there's a lot of opportunities with the Mississippi River tying in with the Crow River on the state side and the National Water Trail side as well. And we'll kind of dive into that here. So we did have a process in the planning efforts. And so, like I said, we met with city staff in a kickoff meeting. It was a cold, snowy day that we did do a lot of the paddling on. But we quickly started to eliminate and focus in as to what the trails might look like. And so we did paddle Diamond Lake, and the Crow, and the Mississippi. French Lake was quickly kind of taken off the table based on the use and how it's got some water quality issues and concerns and access itself. So the focus was mainly on the three, and throughout the process, in the end, the main focus was really then ending up on the Crow and the Mississippi rivers. We did go through several stakeholder meetings, steering committee meetings that involved Three Rivers Park District, the National Park Service, the Friends of the Mississippi, the city, and also Park Commission members. And then we did have a public information meeting, and through those different meetings, we were able to provide a lot of good content as to their thoughts, as to where things have been. I know we had the question asked quite a bit, the Mississippi River is already a water trail. Well, it is a water trail based on designation, but it's not a developed water trail, meaning it doesn't have all the proper access points onto the river and making it ADA compliant, which is what people want to see. So that was the main focus of pulling this trail project together in the feasibility study to highlight what the opportunities would be to develop it. So then that leads us to tonight in our meeting and our presentation of the plan overall, which we'd be probably looking for a recommendation from the commission to the city council for adoption. And ultimately, if the council adopts the plan, we are able then to take the plan and go to the DNR to also then have them designated as a state water trail. And then once that happens, in conversations with them, they are looking for opportunities to earmark funding and look for additional funding to help start the development of the trail itself. So in the overall plan, we had broken out the sections here in the chapters as to how we started with things, what's going on within the overall community, and the plans that you've already taken on for other park and recreational opportunities, your comp plan, your growth, and things like that, and started to tie it into what we saw from not only a desktop review, but also obviously paddling the various water bodies, which was really important for us to be able to tag information, understand the topography and access points and the challenges, as well as the opportunities, pull those together, and through our meetings provide what was really needed for the overall project to come together, and then in the end we'll talk about the recommendations. So as I had mentioned, through various other planning efforts in the city, several plans have been developed, and we tried to pull everything together to help obviously build forth the case of having a water trail within the city of Dayton. And through the various projects that the city is already embarking on, which I think are great. A lot of land park connections and trail connections, which are your bike and pedestrian opportunities. The great thing here is if you activate the water, you'll be able to do pedal paddle, which people can then do a complete loop by biking within the community and then also paddling to get back to their car. And those are real opportunities to drive people from larger metro areas into your community to spend time and then hopefully obviously be able to stop at a restaurant, maybe they stay the night. The tourism aspect really starts to grow with the ability to plan a longer trip. And so then we would be looking, with the recommendations here is the future land use is to the considerations of the tourism-based commercial opportunities. Those are the things that we start to pull out as part of the report. Through our inventory, like I said, we did paddle the various water bodies. We took a look at the community itself and looked for opportunities to tie the various aspects that you already have going on with what would be developed. And so we did develop what is called a story map, and that is the project website. I believe it's linked with the city's website. At the end of all this, we will update it as a final page to be linked to share the information as you go from the plan into the development phase. And what's important here is that it does have a lot of linked information as to what we saw in the field, photos, terrain, opportunities, and those are all the things that tie into this plan overall. And so this graphic here, we had a couple yellow stars. These were places that we saw as opportunities to potentially maybe get access onto the water bodies and look for those to tie in with some of the parks. Again, just highlighting quickly, the various plans and obviously the strides that you've made already as a community and the commitments that you have for goals, not only preserving your natural resources, activating the waterfront, providing these open spaces for your residents, and then also to maybe drive that tourism aspect. And that would drive your growth within the community as well as your growth of your overall park system. And I think this is a great opportunity because you do have a lot of water bodies to activate. Through the committee, the steering committee and the public open house, we were able to kind of do a SWOT analysis. So we're looking at the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And with that, we started to highlight the main ones that came to the surface. And you can see those kind of broken out in this chart here. In any case, when we work on water trails, we have some challenges with water bodies. How do you get people safely on there? Do people know what they're doing? Are they paddling? Do they know how to paddle? Do they know how to do a rescue? Who do they call? If it's a river, is it fluctuating? Are there times people shouldn't be on the river versus low river issues? So those are all things that were part of the discussions as we went through the process. The opportunities obviously are to activate unused spaces, so along the river, providing those safe opportunities to get on and off the river by those access points that we planned for, and how do they get tied into the rest of your system. Obviously, we're bringing in another recreational opportunity to the community that would ultimately drive tourism and hopefully inject money into the economy. And then obviously in the end, in any concern, it's just the overall protection of the natural resources within the community, and how do we integrate these connections with the natural beauty of the settings of the river, especially along the Mississippi. So these are pretty text-heavy slides, but a lot of this text, again, will be found in the report under the recommendations. We did break out the recommendations under 4 main goals, and then we bullet pointed these various opportunities. What's important here, just like in any other plan that you might have, that we really describe the recommendations so that in the end, when the plan does get adopted and you're looking for opportunities for funding, hopefully one of those funding sources can hopefully tie to these various recommendations. And that's why we do tie a lot of your plans together to help support it as to why the development of a water trail. So again, we're looking for that safe and accessible destination for water and land recreation, which again is activating these water bodies themselves. There's a lot of connections and opportunities being made, especially through your work with Three Rivers Park District. They were a great partner throughout this whole project to work with us as to what they've been through, what they've seen, connected us to other people that we could talk to and provide additional information to support the plan. And then also as just in general, a partner in the end on developing some of the concepts and providing good content and feedback on the report itself. Then diving into goal number 2, again, improving the water quality of the rivers and the lakes in Dayton. This is really important because there are a lot of opportunities to partner with the agencies like the DNR as to helping to provide water quality, shoreline protection, erosion control. Those are all things that can help be supported when developing the project. In our experience, we've been actually able to tap into several different types of funding sources to help do armament along these water bodies that would help integrate with the development of access points. And I think through those, not only with the DNR, but you can work with friends groups and the local community on just obviously the educational opportunities to really protect the rivers and the lakes themselves. Under the third goal is really one of the biggest opportunities in the end that once this plan is adopted is the partnerships. And as I mentioned, we built a lot of partnerships through the process with the National Park Service, which I know we'll get to in the end here, but they have been able to start to identify and earmark potential funding for the development of some of the projects that are being recommended in here. We did have several conversations with the Minnesota DNR that one was excited about the opportunity for really earmarking this as a regional water trail and then starting to look for the funding opportunities as well to help partner with the city on development of those, as well as even in their own park spaces. So at the confluence of the Crow and the Mississippi, they do own the property there with the motorized boat launch, and they're excited about the opportunity of the overall project itself, highlighting their potential site to develop it and tie it into the water trail as well. And then obviously there's the Friends groups, the Mississippi Park Connection, Three Rivers Park District, and then ultimately the lowest hanging fruit is knocking on the doors to your neighbors and talking to them about the potential project, because obviously a water trail doesn't just start and end in Dayton. It can go a lot longer along the Mississippi. And so what are the opportunities to work together through multiple jurisdictions to tie an overall larger regional water trail together? And that's the real opportunity, because once you start to bring other municipalities together and working towards one general cause, you start to really see the opportunities for funding and development and standardization of an overall project like this. So I know that's a lot of words so far, but I'm letting you, if you want to read them or even have questions as I go here, happy to entertain them. Then lastly, under the fourth goal here is just, again, looking for opportunities to increase your tourism and economic development. I think one of the first things that stood out to us when we came up to the city and were ready to paddle, that we noticed, there's a lack of restaurants and potential hotel opportunities, knowing that obviously your adjacent communities around you have those opportunities, but you have to leave the city. And what would be the opportunity that with something like this, with a water trail, somebody might be able to stay longer in the community and want something more local. So there would be an opportunity to start to develop some of those businesses as well in support of a water trail. And we have actually seen that happen where restaurants and housing have developed because of these water trails. These recreational spaces really drive people to want to come to your community, as well as potentially live and stay in your community because of these. So the tourism and economic development piece is really important, because it comes into kind of that branding strategy, the communication, and that's also then promoted heavily with making the trail longer and bigger with your adjacent communities. We have already had some discussions. I think that was really encouraging with the National Park Service, that they would be looking to help champion the marketing opportunities of the overall water trail, because the Mississippi River is a national water trail. And so I think that would help obviously take off some of the burden from the city to have to do it on your own, that you might have a larger entity be able to support you. Obviously, there's other ways that the city would want to activate the promotion of it through your businesses and opportunities locally. And then, as I had mentioned already, the Minnesota DNR is excited to obviously get it up on their website and start promoting it as a regional water trail as well, and tying it together. And then hopefully with that, more people want to join and make the trail even longer with developed opportunities. So just some more highlights. I think I kind of hit on most of these, but at some point there will be a piece as to, when you start to talk about the Mississippi River, if you call it a whole water trail, and I believe a good chunk of it is in the designation as the National Water Trail, what makes this section in the city of Dayton unique? And so that's where the next step of branding really comes into play. As to maybe the start, you start to play off of that as to really getting people to drive to your community and be there and paddle your section. And with that comes the opportunities to make it really engaging, and through your land development and parks, I think there's a real opportunity for people to come back again and again to do these sections. We felt it was a great loop that we actually paddled. We did paddle from a little bit to the west of the city. We started out in Rogers, and then we did paddle the Crow up to the confluence of the Mississippi, and then we did paddle it all the way down to the Disc Golf Park and pull out there. And, in the end, there's a lot of opportunities for different paddle experiences. It was a good length of paddle just within the community itself. And I think, people can start to see the differences in the paddling opportunities that they might have through the various water bodies. And so those are things that you start to really highlight in your branding that is more localized as to why your section of the Mississippi River. So then just really high level recommendations again are those partnerships. Those are going to be really important, and I know we're going to be having some further discussions with Marty as to what the next steps might look like after the plan is adopted, and the considerations as to how we might be able to engage others. In our experience, sometimes it takes a community to start to develop a site even before some of the other communities start to recognize why they should be part of the larger plan in itself, and then why they should be tied to it and get on board. One of our recent projects, we had 9 different municipalities sign on in 2 counties together to work together on the branding of their overall section of a corridor itself. And through that, they're constantly talking to each other as to, hey, how are you doing things? Have you had these issues? How are you handling this? They have quarterly meetings to bring them all together to have these discussions and keep things on track. That also helps in the support of the management of the overall water trail. And so through, again, the National Park Service, the great opportunity for you all is that you have that overall branding already, and then through the communities, you're able to manage it all. Lastly, then, the funding opportunities, right? Nothing comes without some sort of plan to try to fund the development of these. So not only from the planning to the design, and then obviously through the implementation. And so as I mentioned, the National Park Service is already looking at opportunities to help offset some of the development costs that are shown in the plan here. But so is the Minnesota DNR, and there are many other opportunities and grants out there to help support more recreational opportunities that are equitable for all users to be able to access. And I think that's what's really important here, is that when you develop these access points onto the rivers or the lakes, that they are ADA compliant and that they're highlighted so that people know that access is provided for these locations. And then obviously in the end, the overall water trail in itself is something that your businesses can help promote as well, because it might drive people to their businesses. So I think there's a lot of great ways to tie various opportunities from your constituents, the residents, businesses, adjacent groups to all be connected to this opportunity. So lastly, as part of our planning process, what we do like to do is obviously be able to consider some of the opportunities to get onto and off of the water bodies. And so those are those access points. And we did look at several different points, and then in the end we did develop a couple concepts as to what it could be feasible on those sites, and then also develop some cost estimates so that those can be leveraged and used for future funding applications and discussions with some of these entities and agencies that I had mentioned. So the first concept that we did work through is Gooden Park, and as you look at this site, what left-hand side parcel dashed with lines is the city-owned Gooden Park, and then the other parcel to the right is actually owned by Three Rivers. And so through the partnership, we were able to talk to them about potentially considering tying the two spaces together, especially because of the island out in front. If the access onto the Mississippi was off of the city's parcel, anybody going around the island on the outside in the main channel of the Mississippi River would bypass that access point. And so it was really important to try and find an opportunity that if you chose the inner side or the outside of the island to go past, that you'd still be able to get to this access point. What's important with these sites, again, is the ADA access, the potential for parking, if you want to access and get on and off at those points, as well as potentially for restrooms. And so Three Rivers Park District is looking at their particular site as the trailhead for the Diamond Lake Trail. And so tying together what they typically do for trailhead projects obviously would help offset some of the costs that potentially would have been considered by the city to develop a water trail access point. And so what we did here is a lot of the property down below the hill by the river itself is in the floodplain. So obviously with those considerations, we're trying to minimize any of the vertical development within the floodplain. But as you can see, and I'm not sure if my mouse is going to show up or not, but the access that kind of looks like a bunch of steps and hatching down by the river is a stepped access launch onto the river, which has been adopted by other agencies in the country as to a ADA compliant launch because of the fact that when you have a river body with fluctuating water elevations, it's really challenging to put like a floating pier on that wouldn't require a lot of maintenance. And also you want to be able to provide an access point that is accommodating to the usable range of the river itself. And so we have put in several of these launch styles. We did actually have a separate conversation with the DNR on permitting something like this, knowing that they hadn't really seen an access point like this yet. And so we walked through the steps and talked about the structure itself and how it would be placed and how it would be protected on the river. And overall, they seemed very much on board. With that, we do try to tie in some of the trails for ADA access to the upper park, and ultimately, like I had mentioned, working with Three Rivers Park District on this particular site, we were able to provide a parking lot, a trail, kiosk, as well as restrooms, a picnic area, and then we do also then, again, connect the city's parcel to another park shelter with picnic tables and a overall pedestrian bridge across the ravine there. And then to the south, what you can see is what Three Rivers is planning. There would be an underpass under the road to connect that Diamond Lake Trail overall. So a lot of work and thought went into this, tying obviously the two projects together, but I think overall it looks like a great plan to move forward and really develop that space for multiple reasons. And then lastly, one of the other concepts I'm just going to highlight tonight is the Elsie Stevens concept. So overall, the city has been working really hard on developing that site through various phases. And we were able to consider where that access point at this park would be located. And so here, and unfortunately I haven't seen it yet, but Marty has told me that you guys have completed another portion of this project near where this access point would be. And this is on the far north end of the park. And this would be, again, a sidewalk coming off of the existing parking now. We'd have to cut it down and then provide that stepped option into the river itself. And so we did look at some grades and kind of some retaining wall that might be needed to obviously adjust with it. That is obviously the biggest challenge with rivers is just the overall water fluctuation and dealing with the ups and downs and potential for erosion. With establishing any type of access onto it. So we did look at that close and put together, again, this concept with the overall cost for it. So with that was a very quick recap of the whole report in itself. A lot of good information in there. If you haven't read all of it, maybe at some point you'll be able to really hone in on it, but I would welcome any questions that you might have at this time.
This Elsie Stevens access, is that different from or a part of the phase 2 that's already kind of in the works?
It's already part of it to some degree. We're getting the park in there. We haven't actually got the, we didn't have anything to put a launch there set up, so that's come from there. So a lot of the infrastructure that is on there, all the parking lot and the trails around there, is part of the phase two.
So no significant changes from what's been shown
No,
before?
no. This will work with what we've got
Cool.
in place.
Would it be a part of the 500 that we budgeted for 2024?
I'm not sure where that's. We're budgeting separately for the water trail.
Okay.
So I know we've got 125,000 in there for this year, and with any additional funding that we can get, that will be the way that we try and fund most of this water trail project.
Okay.
I will quick add, I know I see Claire is on the call too, and I apologize, Claire, I didn't see you hop on. I don't know if I missed anything in the report that you also wanted to share.
I don't think so. I apologize for my lateness. There was bad traffic stuck at the U of M career fair today. No, I don't think so. I know you may have mentioned this, but we're working on getting that meeting scheduled with Forest, with the National Park Service, and hopefully that should give us some more additional information on their involvement, hopefully in the next coming year and future years as well. So
I think that's one really big part of this is the National Park Service involvement. They're really excited about it. There's a meeting on April the 12th that we've been invited to go, and it's their kickoff for the year, and there's going to be a lot of interest about branding things, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to get involved at that level. Forrest has expressed that he would really like to champion this thing, so that would be great to have somebody like that reach out to the other communities around here to reinforce the message that we're going to be sending out to them. So I think that's a really strong alliance that we're going to promote there. Along with the Three Rivers Park District. I think they've been really outstanding to work with, as Rain said. So I think all those things are good, but at this stage I think the National Park Service is going to be a real good involvement for us.
I have a question. I'm wondering if any of the other municipalities locally along the river there are also interested in this, or are they willing to participate?
Yeah, so we actually did put them together on some of the lists to reach out at the very beginning of the project to try to get them involved with some of the meetings and committee opportunities to provide any input. Unfortunately, I don't even know if one of them actually reached back out to us, which was unfortunate. And I would say that's not unusual in our experience when we've started on these from the ground up. I think, again, once they start to see the opportunities and the connections that have been made, especially with the National Park Service, they're going to want to tie in with the city's plan, and they're going to start to want to do their own plan and pull it together and be a partner in it. So I think that's really the next step. And so, as Marty mentioned, Forest with the National Park Service is really wanting to champion things, which I think is great, which hopefully helps you guys not having to have to use your resources necessarily for all the discussions and tying them together. But I know even ourselves, MSA, we're excited about the next steps and the opportunities, because we don't like to just do a plan. We want to see it obviously get developed and utilized, and I think that's the exciting part. And so I know we're going to have some further discussions with Marty as to what that could look like, and reaching out to Forest and planning those opportunities to reach out to them and start to get them involved.
I don't have anything further to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. John, anything to add?
Yeah, there's a SWOT analysis table on page 20 of my MSA packet, and one of the weaknesses is concern about police and fire. I'm just curious if that was like concern expressed by them, or...
Karen. Sorry.
So that's always been a challenge when these develop, as to what level emergency services has to get involved. From our experience, and you guys are seeing probably more paddlers than some of the other projects we've worked on, but a lot of times when something hasn't been promoted quite yet, you're not seeing a lot of people on it, and there hasn't been a need for rescues or help. Once something like this starts to get promoted, and there isn't any signage, there isn't any access yet developed, but the plan is out there, the opportunity is there, we have seen a huge influx of users, and these users are of all abilities. And that challenge is somebody that isn't maybe as experienced getting onto the water, has an incident on it, they fall out, their boat starts to float away, or their paddle, they don't know where to go, they don't know where to swim to. Luckily, you guys have a little bit more of an urbanized shoreline in some of the areas, but obviously the Mississippi, one of the concerns we had brought up multiple times was it's the mighty Mississippi, right? And it's a big river, and it's daunting to some people. So if somebody falls out, the challenge is how do you activate emergency services? Who do they call? Do they know where they're going? In our experience, when a trail starts to develop, and again, this section's a little bit shorter right now, but if you start to develop with some of the other communities, if somebody falls out, they may not know where they're located adjacent to. Are they near one of your adjacent communities? Are they in Dayton still? Who do they call? So what we've seen is once there are more users on the water body, emergency services really wants to be brought in, because they also want to know, where are our current access points to get on the water with our boat to rescue somebody? Where do we also need additional access points onto the river for our motorized boat? Is there a trail numbering system or signage that needs to be implemented so that if somebody does fall out, can they call and say, I'm by mile marker 93, or something like that? So those are some of the things that we start to see as it progresses, and those conversations start to grow into the plan as things get developed.
Cool, thank you. Nothing else from me?
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Awesome. I don't have any questions either at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so now,
They're looking for a recommendation
Yep.
to move forward to the 20th. Okay. So, looking for a recommendation to move forward to the next council meeting on the 28th.
And motion that we recommend it?
Okay.
And I second
Also,
it.
oh, okay.
Thanks, Jack.
Do a roll call? Okay.
Yep. Jack, roll call.
Yeah, I'll vote yes on that motion.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Yes, as well.
thank you, Rain.
Thanks, Rain.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Really appreciated working with you all, and look forward to the next steps.
Thank you.
All right. Item C, Dayton Recreation Trails discussion.
All right, so it had been requested that the CIP be provided, so you guys could evaluate high priority places that you wanted to recommend future trail construction. So that is attached. Unfortunately, I apologize, it did not print awesome. The printer and I were at odds today, but hopefully you had time to review it prior to the meeting as well. So this is basically for your information. And for you to review and make recommendations.
I think what we're looking for is the dollar amounts and where we want to be spending them and prioritise them. I know there's been some discussion about filling in some gaps and all that kind of thing. So we're looking for some guidance from you guys where you would like to see those gaps be filled, and then we can take it from there, include it in the CIP and get some engineering recommendations.
Do we still have those locations on that map?
Yeah, we had made a list somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did that too.
It was in that work session, but I
Yep.
don't remember if I wrote it down.
So,
Yeah, we had it, because we even numbered on which ones
Yeah.
we
Right.
wanted.
It was a big map. We met early. Had pizza.
I have
Okay.
my map, but I don't, on my little one, but I don't think I marked it.
I might have to get hold of Alec for that.
See if it's still in
I
his
think-
office. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he took all that data with him, but I can certainly find out where that is. And that would be your prioritised numbers there.
I think
Correct.
so. And then
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
as someone kind of new to reading this sort of sheet,
Yeah.
looking through, I'm getting to 2022 cash balance December 31st. Would that be the most recent, basically, balance of that account?
Yes.
So this
Yeah.
1.4 million that's what we have to spend, so to speak.
That's what the balance is
The
now.
balance, right?
That's correct.
Yep. And then how much
Can you
trail
tell me
does
what-
that get?
Can you tell me what
probably-
page you're on? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sure. I think it's the very last page I went to. There's the second column is the 2022 estimated amounts, and at the very bottom of the first section, there's cash balance December 31st.
Does that mean we paid for all the park projects, even though there's some carryover, like at a lease and all that?
Yeah, no, it's not completely paid out. It's what's been billed has been paid out, but that hasn't been fully funded
So
out there yet.
some of that money's spoken for. It's
Yeah.
not all for us to spend
Yeah.
right now, but
No.
that's the balance of the
And I think
No.
what we've tried to do with those numbers is spread that amount over.
Yeah,
right.
We don't want to empty that balance completely. We need to spread it out over a period of time. And there's
Right.
always money coming in from development, and I think most of that's going to be from the commercial and development stuff that's going on off of 81, the cubes and such like that. They all pay park and trail dedication money.
Right. In 2023 is a planning year. There is no major projects going on.
No major projects. We're buttoning up what was not completed in 2022, and then we're going to be looking at new projects. Phase 3 of Stevens, on the Four Corners Park, off of Braeburn. Those 4 plots of land that we were looking at the last meeting, I believe. Paul's going to take a look at those and see what needs to happen there. And there's another project that escapes me at this time.
Can you walk us through what's remaining from 2022 to get completed?
2022 to get completed, a few punch list items, just some tidying up and making sure that trees have survived and grass is growing on Hayden Hills and Donahue Dells. And then the biggest thing is at Stevens, it's getting the bridges in and then finishing off the paving and then all the tidying up work behind that with the landscaping. But that's the stuff that needs to be done over there, and that's the biggest part of it there. So I'm not sure what the outstanding dollar amount is yet, but we're still within budget.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And Marty, is Leathers Park still on the schedule?
Leathers.
23.
Others.
I didn't hear what you said.
Leathers Park.
Leathers Park.
Prairie.
That is still on there. I think that we funded that out of, because of the cost that it came down to, we funded that out of the park maintenance budget last year. So there is some funding on 2023 for additional items if we want to do something different in there. I know that there's some trees that were put down to go in there. So it'd be some of those type of items that we would use that for.
Well, I didn't know, Marty, if all the seed planting had been done for the prairie grasses and stuff. Is that all completed?
That's not completed. They didn't get to it last year. We had that wet spell when they were going to plant, so they didn't get in there and tear it up with the tractor seed in it. So they're going to be coming in early spring to do that.
Okay, yeah, it'd be nice to see something planted there this year because there wasn't much last year. It'd be great. Thanks.
Okay.
When we prioritized those trails, we didn't put dollar amounts on anything, did we?
No.
'Cause, I mean,
No.
the trail that's
Yeah.
10 feet wide is different than a little gravel
Yeah,
trail.
so I would try and get some engineer estimates on those to see what the cost is. And there might be, I can't remember what those trails look, but there might be some right-of-way that needs to be built or
Yep.
that kind of thing. So we would, once we've got to prioritise, we can start digging into those, getting a little bit more detail and some more refined costings.
Okay. And if we can't get a hold of Alec, we can meet again and
Yeah.
discuss it.
Hopefully I
Yeah.
can get that stuff, because I would hate revisiting stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
That's
The
dreamland.
meeting recorded. I mean, we could just try to parse it out of the meeting too if we had to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's somewhere. We'll just have to figure out what he did with it, so.
It should be the property of the city. He shouldn't have taken any of that with him when he left.
Yeah. I don't think Rogers has got a lot of use for it.
No, I don't think so either. But like I said, it should be documentation for the city.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on the trails discussion you need from us?
No, I think that's all. We're probably a little lax on that, so you have to forgive me and Therese. We're trying to play catch up and
Completely
deal with
You
this.
understand.
guys are
Yep.
doing great.
I got technology fights today, and here.
Well, if that's something you found and could send out before the next time we
Yeah.
meet, we can
For
refresh
sure.
our memories and come with all kinds of ideas. And
Zip lines, you name it.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe go out on the day of the meeting.
I was going to ask how the idea of a city managed paddle share program, does that excite Marty, or does it something you're willing to do? Or
I think we would work with Three Rivers Park District
Okay.
on that. And that'd be definitely a joint project, and it's something that they've operated in the
Right.
past at other places. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's it's a great way of getting people out there and to experience that as well. So
Awesome.
I'm excited by it. I'm excited by the whole project,
Right.
actually.
And then this is kind of related to the trails, but they had mentioned mapping in the water discussion as well. And Alec, before he left, mentioned some kind of GIS project that the city was working on. Is that something still in the works? Or
Yeah, I had a meeting last week about that. There's a very vanilla version of it out there at the moment that I want to get some more detail on before we start releasing anything. But it's going to be for staff. There'll be a staff version that is only available to us, but just for maintenance purposes, so we know when stuff was replaced and blah, blah, blah. But there will be a version that's available to the public through a dashboard that will have a lot more detail about the parks. And
Cool.
I'd like some input from you guys as to what you'd like to see on there.
That could be a key
And I know there's
register.
always been some talk about doing history of the parks and surrounding areas, so I'd like to incorporate some of that information in there, other than just listing out what amenities there are at that park. So some of those kind of things would be good.
Awesome.
And also just to tie in with that a little bit, the city is also looking into an app for the city, and this would be a tie-in to that app. So
Like a pre-existing app that we would buy and like you put your branding on, or
it's something I haven't been hugely involved in it at this stage, but I'm hoping it would be something that we can do a little bit of bespoke stuff, so we can model it to what we want it to be, rather than off-the-shelf type thing.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's pretty customizable, so I'm
Nice.
pretty excited about it. So it should be good, and they have capabilities of doing their own maps or incorporating our maps, so it should be pretty versatile and give us a lot of flexibility.
So
And
that, they're doing a demo model of this, I think, and so
like 2 weeks, yeah.
yeah, they're working with our GIS guy at Stantec to incorporate some of this GIS modeling that we're doing for the parks and put it in there on this demo model of it. So we'll see how that looks when it comes out.
Thanks.
that's it for me.
Carrie, do you have anything?
No, I don't. You
Okay.
guys are covering it good.
Jack, anything else from you?
No, I'm good. I'm just figuring out how to use this Zoom stuff. It's kind of fun. I will add that in my travels that I've been doing the last couple of months, I'm getting to really appreciate all the trail work we're doing in Dayton, because where I'm at, they don't have anything near the quality we have. I think that's something we need to push, especially if we can come up with something like we're planning on doing for the river. That'd be great.
Cool.
All right. Item D, Park Commission Charter discussion.
Well, this we talked about this some time ago, and we gave you some information, so you can decide what you want the commission to look like, what you want your roles to be, and come up with. Because I think in the past people have not understood what they want to do or how the commission works. So I think this was an attempt to try and formalise that into something that is workable, that you guys can craft how you want it to be. So this is down to you guys.
Right. So I think I kind of brought it up when I first started because I just didn't know. I have never done anything in the city before, and really the only reason why I joined was I was new. I was trying to find some way to get involved, and I knew David Klein, who used to be on the commission, and he just suggested that I apply, so I did. Then I showed up to the first meeting and I didn't know like the verbiage to use or anything like that. And I just thought, wouldn't it be good if we had something to just help us when we're getting started so that we don't feel so uncomfortable and not know how to talk or what to do or anything like that. So I've actually been looking at a lot of the different communities and kind of talking to people, trying to figure out things. One thing that I like the city of Medina does is they actually have an orientation, and so I got like the orientation manual from them and stuff. I don't mean to add more work to everybody though, but I mean, even if you didn't have to sit through an orientation, if you were just given information, like, I love it because I didn't know anything, and it just kind of goes through and says, this is what the city administrator does, this is what the city assessor does, this is what, and it kind of just gives us one sentence overview of everybody in the city. And if we were given something like that, I just think that it would be very beneficial. Even, today our president and vice president isn't here, and I didn't want to start it because I don't know what to say. So even if you had it written out, the verbiage of things, because if you're not used to it, you just don't know. So that's one of the things that I just kind of wanted to bring up was the fact that maybe we could have some type of orientation or even just a sheet that we're given. I brought this if anybody wanted to look at it.
Could you email a copy of that to me so then we could start taking a look at that and maybe start formatting something that we could make a version of that per day? And
yeah, I could definitely do that.
You can send that to me too as well, please.
Okay. I can do that.
Yeah, can I take a look at it?
Yeah, sure. And then as far as like looking at, I went ahead and printed off, or I think you guys gave it to us at a past meeting.
yeah,
We actually have one that was passed back in 2007. I actually think it's pretty good, but there are some things that we're not doing that are in it. So I just thought maybe we could just bring it up and see if it's even needed, because we don't need it in here if we're not going to do it. One of which is a secretary to maintain meeting minutes. I know you guys are already doing that, so I don't know if one of us is supposed to be doing that, and it's just added to you.
I think the secretary, we used to supply the secretary before as a city staff member. Now we outsource that, so I think.
So we don't, okay, because in here it says we're supposed to choose a secretary from the commission. So that's great that we don't have to. I just didn't.
We can change it if you like.
No, like do it, That's one thing that we could strike out of it then.
Yeah.
Is that we don't need to have a secretary. The other thing in here is it says that we're supposed to turn in an annual report by October 1st.
Yep.
But since we have those meeting minutes from the whole year that are online for anybody, are we doing that? Are we supposed to be doing that?
The meeting minutes and the recording is saved online. So I think that the meeting minutes are saved online for a year.
At least.
Yeah, they're on there
2
for like
years.
3 years.
I think that, we have, we were looking at doing it for a year just for a space saving thing, and then archiving them to somewhere where you can access them from the archive. And I don't know if that means something else, an annual report, because when staff do that, it's a list of achievements, what you did throughout the year. So it's a little bit more comprehensive than just reading through the minutes. So when we do it, we incorporate photographs and pull a whole package together. And that's something I think that what's not been available too much for you, and it might be a little bit tricky at the start here, is having staff to pull some of this stuff together. And I think with Teresa stepping up now, I think we have a little bit more ability to support some of these efforts. So if we need to pull together a report for the end of the year, then both Teresa and myself will be able to help that. The majority of it will be on Teresa, though. Thank you.
Voluntold.
If
if I may, so in talking to other council members, one thing that they had talked about was in the past, there used to be an annual report that was presented to the city council as a way for you guys to come in, talk about what you had done throughout the year, what you're looking forward to next year, kind of just as an opportunity to connect and report up. I mean, I'll be here, but I think there's an opportunity to speak to everyone, which I think is beneficial. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's something that's just maybe we haven't been doing, but it sounds like in the past we were doing that on a regular annual basis.
I'd love to see a copy of one of those if we could track one down. I mean, I've seen what other communities do, but I don't want to compare apples to oranges. And like,
I don't know what that looks like. I'll be honest, I've never seen one. So
Okay.
it hasn't been done since I've been on here, and I've been doing this since 2014.
Okay.
Maybe Doug can recall something along those, but we can certainly try and find something.
And I've seen other communities do them, but again, I don't want us to compare us to like other,
and quite often we
See
will
what-
take, look at others, what other cities produce, and then just adapt them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. So we get a lot of ideas that way.
Theodore Wirth wrote a book that was this thick, and it was his report, but it was on his whole commissioner duties.
Oh well, we should have
So
one of those.
I think it's acting
For
commissioner.
Public Works, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be neat. Like you said, kind of like what you presented at the year end, thing, or Zach presented rather for the whole
Yeah.
city of
Yeah.
accomplishments and goals.
Yep.
Yeah. So that kind of ties into a question I had. It's difficult to do anything outside of this room with open meeting laws. We can't work with more than one of us. So logistically, I don't even know how someone would, like one person kind of just assemble that and then.
Well, what we could do is we probably have you guys bring it to us. Staff will assemble it, and then we can do it at a meeting, or we could have a
work session. Okay.
have a work session for it.
That's where staff.
However you guys would like to do that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Carrie, did you have more?
The only other thing I was going to ask, and not that I'm looking for it, but I noticed that some cities have term limits. Do we have any term limits, and do we want
Not that I'm aware of. I think the only term limit is on the chair. They try to change that every year. I think we have a vote on that every year, just so we don't have one person in the chair for 20 years or something like that. So there was a conscious effort, and I think it was driven by council at the time, to have some turnover in that position, particularly.
So how does that work? Because I just don't know. So at the end of my term, like in 3 years, or 2.5 at this point, do you just reapply every time, and then the city takes whoever and then relooks at it?
They'll take a look, and generally the incumbents get reappointed, but they will open it up to other people.
So it's always open then?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then I don't see why we'd need a limit. It's always open. I just wanted to see how it worked. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I had.
Under powers and duties, the first one is recreation program, and in the past we haven't talked much about things outside of the parks, but we've got Teresa here now too. So is that something that maybe we, as a commission, might be more involved in? Is recreation activities for the community?
I think where we're at, and I'll talk a little bit, and I'm sure Teresa will jump in behind me here. Currently, we've never had a proper title Parks and Recreation Department until Teresa came on board, and she's been trying to find her feet here a little bit, trying to set up programs and stuff. But we're starting to work together a little bit more to try and find what the recreation side of this deal looks like. So Teresa's obviously making different programs like the tree lighting and movies in the park and those other things. So as that gathers steam, it's going to take a little bit more coordinating. But I think it should be a whole coordinated parks and recreation department. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted Teresa to step up and be part of this meeting, more active role in this meeting.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. So, yeah, I'm kind of working my way through, kind of seeing what other cities are doing and seeing what fits for our city, because every single city is slightly different. There are some that have just parks and just recreation, and some the majority are together, but it's all different. So it's kind of finding the balance of what works for the city and our staff and everything. So.
Awesome.
One thing we should add to that is we need to also keep in contact or have CDAA talk with us and explain their needs and what else is going on with them and what they expect in the future too. I know they've spoken to us in the past and they've spoken to the council in the past, but we need to make sure, because it is a joint operation between Champlin and Dayton. It has been. And we should continue working with them in the future.
I think we have still got a very good relationship with CDAA, particularly with the community playfield program that we're trying to get off the ground and find a location for. They're very supportive of that. So we do have some regular contact with those. So obviously that's something that we're going to keep pushing forward with. They have some funding to put into some projects. So obviously, that's great for the city to have that kind of cooperation with an outside entity.
I think we've got multiple CEA members, and I think one of the sport chairs that live in our community. Mm-hmm. And I ran into it in talking with citizens over the past 6 months, and they all told me how there's a huge demand for the need of fields, whether it's baseball, football, lacrosse, soccer, and they're kind of almost stealing from each other sometimes in the summer. So whoever gets there first gets the field, and there's a huge need for it. So I know they're really open to working with us.
Jack, do you have anything else on the subject?
As a past member of one of the soccer clubs in the area too, that there's also football groups and stuff where club teams also have a demand on parks and stuff like that. So we have to be aware of their needs and their requests too, and work with them in the future, because a lot of those people are residents of our city, and some aren't and some aren't, but we have to make sure we have a good program that works with them. And that's basically all I got tonight.
So on the charter discussion, we're all curious about roles and responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
Duties and requirements and things like that. If memory serves correct, there was a company you could bring in that could walk us through all that stuff? Or would you prefer that one of us start drafting things together?
I think I would like to see what you guys want to pull together on that. I think it's something that I think I would like it to come from you guys. I think I'm struggling for words here. That's unusual.
Group email?
Yeah, I'll send a group email.
Or mass text? I mean,
no, I think that if it comes from you, then it's something that you guys see as important. If we pull that from some other city, it might not be as relevant as the situation in Dayton, where we have a lot of growth and a lot of management that we need to do. And I think that you, David, particularly have a huge interest in trails and stuff, so I think that needs to be represented as part of what your responsibilities are, planning trails, where the trail routes go and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And same, with any other specific things that, Dayton is very specific. We have this ability to put water trails in. There's a lot of communities that don't have that ability, so I think it needs to, what you guys want to get involved in, should be directed from you guys. Mm-hmm. And then, we'll put it together, a part of this document, and then we can release it and have a work session on it and see what everybody else feels.
okay.
Yeah, I think I really like the suggestion with the secretary. That was a great finding. If we're not acting as secretary, maybe it ought not to be listed as one of our responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Is that something that we need to officially motion for to get changed?
No, I think if this is starting from scratch, I think we can just start the whole thing over and bring a new charter to the council for approval.
Okay.
That's my feeling about it anyway.
Would that charter be in the same format that it's in, like the city code today, you're thinking? Or?
I would imagine it would be something along those lines. We may put some photographs in there if you want.
You put photographs in the code? NFTs?
Yeah. I think it's pretty much a blank canvas at the moment, so if you want to pull stuff from other cities or put in there what your thoughts are, I think that's important.
So is there somebody who wants to do that?
Well,
Just start it, or do you want me to just,
I mean, you can divide
One of
the
us
projects
needs
up
to just-
between you as well. I mean,
I'm struggling with knowing how to appropriately communicate outside of these meetings, you know,
well, you can always email.
but just only a certain number of folks, right?
You can email to, I think you can email to a central, I think it's
not a quorum, right?
Yeah, it can't be a quorum, but you can kind of email through the city administrator and he can forward those emails on. I think there's a workaround.
So oftentimes what the council will do is Zach will send something out and then we have to reply directly back to Zach, not to everyone. Zach will then take what everyone says, make updates and said, okay, based on what everyone said, here's what I have to come back with.
Okay.
So
That makes sense. That
One
helps
person's
tremendously.
collecting everyone's thoughts, putting it in a document and sending it back for review. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're not communicating.
That helps
directly
quite a
with
bit,
each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you could send those to me, or does it have to be Zach?
I don't know, I'll talk with Zach about that, but we'll get that aspect of it figured out. I think if it's just going to one person, I think that,
Okay.
I think because it's the council, it might be a different scenario.
Right. Okay.
okay, so we'll start flooding you with thoughts and ideas.
Perfect. I feel popular.
All right. Does anybody else have anything?
Are
Carrie?
you looking for a motion to adjourn?
All right. Next Park Commission meeting is March 7th, and looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I can second it.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Carrie. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Hey,
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.